Question of the day. What is your favorite quick version of a larger game? Now, you hear me use the term distilled quite a bit when I talk about Glenn Drover's games of, Raccoon Tycoon and Railroad Rivals and Mosaic. They are all distilled, which means you take a much heavier surface and you run it through the distillation process, and all the extra stuff that doesn't really need to be there falls out, and then you come out with this beautiful process of a game that is distilled down to its roots, but you still get the same experience and the same fun of things that you want out of a game. So today we're talking about Twilight Struggle, Red Sea, Conflict in Africa, and he's got some dates. I'm sorry I don't have those dates right off the hand, but it is a 35-minute version of Twilight Struggle. This is the lunchtime series that they do from GMT Games, where it takes one of their bigger games and breaks it down to where you can play this in 35 minutes or so on your lunch break at work, which is the goal. So that always begs the question, since this is named Twilight Struggle and the cards don't even say Red Sea and all that, they just say Twilight Struggle on the back, does this feel as good as the original? Will you grab this one off the shelf more than you grabbed the original? That's the question to be answered in this review. We'll come back, we'll talk final thoughts after we do the overview right now. All right, so this is Twilight Struggle, Red Sea, Conflict in the Horn of Africa. That's a long title, but it's because it is the lunch version of Twilight Struggle. And you'll notice that the map is exactly the same. There's a space race track, there's a point track, there's military operations, there's DEF CON, and there's an action and round track. Now, this drives me crazy, and this may be because it's a holdover from the war game genre, but this calls this turns and this rounds. And I'm like, this is a turn, that's a round. But anyway, you do the same thing as Twilight Struggle. So when I normally talk about distilling games down, they usually leave out some things. Absolutely nothing is left out. It's almost like you zoomed into Twilight Struggle and watched a quick part of it. Or you're watching like 2 or 3 matches of Monday Night Raw instead of the whole show, right? So you're seeing these places the exact same. The only ones that are different, we have flashpoint states here with Ethiopia and Somalia, and then the strategic sea lane. These are things that we're going to give you. This will double your score if you control this in the 2 scoring areas. So you only have 2 areas to score. Egypt is in both areas, which means that Egypt would fall into the whole no coup realignment in the Middle East. So this works the same way. If you move the DEF CON status here, you can't do coups in the Middle East, but you do have the option to do realignment rolls, placing influence markers, and coups. Now, what you're doing is you're controlling territory. So now the Soviets control Sudan. If they were here with 1, they would not control it. They would just have presence there. You would have to have the certain amount of the number there to control it. And when you're adding influence, you have to add that many more to the total than the other person has there to control it back from them. Coups will essentially, you'll roll dice and add your amount times something, and you'll pull their influence off of there and add yours. And then realignment rolls are kind of similar. You'll roll against the other person to take it off. You have the cards here. The way it works is you're going to deal 9 cards to each player at the beginning of the 2 rounds. From the mid-war cards first, and then you'll add the late war cards in there. But it's all the same kind of stuff as Twilight Struggle. When I say same, I mean it's got the art, it's got what it does, and then I believe there should be, I was looking for it just a minute ago and I was trying to find it again. There should be a reference to what these cards are in here. But there's also a great rules reference here for what everything is. Yeah, well, no, I guess it doesn't have it. I thought it did. But there's a great reference card that each player gets. Plus, you sit on the 2 sides of this board, and each player can see everything on the board. It's all listed, including the new stuff that's listed. It includes which cards, every reference you're going to need to play the game is on the board, and that to me is huge. The map is a little more detailed, it looks like. Space Race works the same way. You're going to play a card for the Space Race instead, and then you'll roll the dice. If you get it, you land on there and take the bonus. But you'll play a card for the headline phase, which means that you're going to play it for the event only. Whoever has the highest operations number will play theirs first, and then the Soviets will take their first action round. And you can do that by spending it for the event, the operations points, or the space race. And so that is essentially what you're doing. You're playing to 10 points, or you're playing until somebody causes nuclear war. And then one of the cool things is the flashpoint, or they're not called flashpoint, they're called, yeah, they are flashpoint states here. If you do a coup in a flashpoint state, you have to take a card off the top. If its operations points are 1 or 2, you have to drop the DEF CON status, which means you could accidentally trigger war, just like James did the other night. And the other changes are that there are these 2 scoring cards here. Let me show you the scoring cards. There's Africa scoring, presence, domination, control. It's the same kind of thing. If you have the strategic sea lanes, you can do that. If you do control completely Africa here and Ethiopia and Somalia and controls more African countries, you win the game automatically by playing the scoring card. So again, there's nothing missing from this in the original. It's just a much faster version in a much smaller area. So that's it. That is this lunchtime version of Twilight Struggle. As you know, with my reviews, I do art direction, and then gameplay. Now, what's great about this small map is, first of all, it looks just like Twilight Struggle. If people walk by the table, they're going to go, oh, wait, did you fold the Twilight Struggle map up? It looks the same. Now, the original Twilight Struggle gets a lot of grief because it looks like something you'd find in a history textbook. I have always loved that for some reason. Something about the way the map is, I love Twilight Struggle. Is it going to win awards for art? Absolutely not. Now, the cards will, because the cards take full color pictures in some places and black and white in other places, pictures from historical events, and it puts them there, and you get to see them, get a little flavor text about them. You get to see what these events do as far as the gameplay. They give you the certain amount of operations points. They give an event, and it tells whose side they're on. So the cards in these games have always looked great to me, but the board looks like a textbook. But what I love about this board is it gives you a reference card on the board. You see what you can spend operation points on and what a coup does. And I think the only thing it's missing is the little caveat about flashpoint countries, or if you were to, or flashpoint states, flashpoint countries, where if you do a coup and a flashpoint, you have to turn over the top card, and you could potentially end the game early, like James did the other night. But the game, obviously, that's how it looks. Art direction is the same as Twilight Struggle. There are no differences except the one little flashpoint thing, and then that shipping lane thing where you can have double the points of scoring. So let's talk about the gameplay. Is it as good as Twilight Struggle? Yeah, it is. It feels like you're playing Twilight Struggle, a fast version of it. And by that, I mean, I don't feel like it takes and eliminates a bunch of stuff. I mean, the space race track is still here. The coups, the battle, the realignments, all of it is still there. The scoring cards are still there. So this actually feels and accomplishes what a lot of games try to do when it comes to let's do a quick version or a travel version. You remember those of a bigger game. This nails it. This knocks it out of the park. If you want to play Twilight Struggle, but you don't have 2-3 hours to play it, this one does it. You feel like you're playing it. You're playing 2 rounds, 2 turns, 2 rounds of 9 cards, how it normally plays. And you don't lose a single thing. In my opinion, you don't lose a single thing of the original. Now, I think wildly high of the original. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. Only thing I can ding it for is maybe the board art that I like, that I know I have to be objective about, know that it's not the greatest board art in the world, but I still like it. This is a great game. This also gets a 9 out of 10 because it is so much the same as Twilight Struggle. And why is that okay, right? Why is that okay? Because there are many, 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 many times that I just want to play Twilight Struggle and I don't have 2 hours. I don't have an hour to play it, hour and a half, 2 hours. I want to play Twilight Struggle a lot. This version, I can get to the table and convince somebody to play and then play another game afterwards. Or help Ominous and Sebastian learn some spells afterwards. That's what I've been doing. But I can do that with this game, and I can do it and play it and get it knocked out and have the exact same feel as the original. So, 100%. This is just as good as the original. So that begs the question, should you own both? Absolutely you should. If you own the original, buy this. If you don't own the original, buy this first. This is a brilliant concept, a brilliant idea. I would love to see Paths of Glory done like this, right? A quick 35-minute version of Paths of Glory, because I've never gotten Paths of Glory to the table, and I'm a huge World War I buff. So that is Twilight Struggle, Conflict in North Africa, Red Sea Conflict in North Africa. Brilliant game, just as good as the original, definitely worth buying. Even if you own the original, it is worth buying first if you haven't played the original. So 9 out of 10, same rating as the original for me. Love this game, cannot say enough good things about this. Go get it, go buy it, and support this series, because I want to see more in this 35-minute series that actually feels like a GMT game in 35 minutes. So I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Brian. Hey, make sure to check out the Dice Tower store. We got a lot of great merch there. We've got some great t-shirts there. We're out of mugs right now, the Board Game Breakfast mugs, but
And I'm going to put up a pre-order for more mugs, and we're going to go ahead and try to just pre-sell all the mugs that we have before I even order them, because it doesn't take long for me to get them now that they have the design, and that way we kind of know ahead of time how many I need to go ahead and order. So if you want one of those great board game breakfast mugs, they're that nice blue ceramic, it's really nice heavy mug, get those now. But that's the Dice Tower store at dicetowerstore.com. Until next time, I'm Brian Drake. I'll see you.